And he actually suggested that I go work for ESSO.
What?
Yes. I've been away for so long in the UK for 13, 14 years. I wanted to come back and do something for the country. And he said, come work for us next week. My parents took me to the UK and I thought it was a holiday. Then a few days later, we were buying a uniform and there's something strange going on. In the UK, you only take one exam a year. But in the US, it was a continuous learning and testing and collecting credits, right?
Right.
Remember that in the classroom, we had to collect points by answering or by speaking up.
Participation.
Participation.
Uh-huh.
That was a shock. There was one director who asked me, as president of the SET, how would you fix that?
Wow.
And I thought about it and I said, I don't know.
Warren Buffett said this like a long time ago in 1986. Fear and greed.
Well, I think both are necessary. Make investment on an informed basis. Being an informed investor, it reduces your risk. And by being informed, it reduces your fear.
Do you think this would pull away Thai investors from Thai stock market?
We're not here to stop people, but we're here to create the opportunities to make it easy for them to access.
คุณกวางอัศเดชคงสิริสวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับ Welcome to KND. Your second time at the Standard, I understand,
Yes,
right?
the first time was for Secret Sauce.
Yeah.
With Ken.
Right.
Yeah, so my second time here at the office.
It's my honor.
Thank you.
All right.
And, my honor to be here too.
Okay. Right. You're president of SET, which is the stock exchange market of Thailand.
Well, SET is Stock Exchange of Thailand. Yes. So we basically operate the stock exchange or the capital market for Thailand.
Yeah, people understand and hear about SET all the time, I suppose, but I'm not sure if they really understand the role of SET. So maybe we can start with you.
Absolutely.
Help people understand SET and your job as president better. So what would be your job description? What is it exactly that you do at SET?
Well, my personal job description or the organization's job description?
Your job description. Yeah.
I guess, so like a CEO of the organization, we've got about 900 plus people, including outsourcers and so on. But effectively, one of the core roles of the Stock Exchange of Thailand as an organization is to basically operate, make sure that the market operates or functions properly. So it's like switching the lights on. You've got to make sure that at 10 o'clock, the market starts. People can buy and sell stocks.
Right.
People, when they sell, they get cash in return or money or something in return. If they buy, they get the stocks that they want to buy. So one of the core functions is that we need to make sure that the market operates on a daily basis to the extent, actually, I call it to the level of that it can be taken for granted.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So no one
runs automatically.
Automatically, it's like switching the light on. You expect the light to go on.
Right.
So you have to maintain it to that level. So that's one of the core functions of the organization. And obviously, I'm an employee that helps run it and organize it and make investments necessary to reach that level of operational efficiency and stability and trusted level. And obviously, the next part is, I guess, we help people. We create opportunities. I'd put it that way. We create opportunities for businesses to raise capital, to grow their business, to enlarge, to invest. We create opportunities for investors and investors of all sorts to manage their financial investments. So they can invest in stocks, they can invest in other products that is available and to their requirement or their personal requirement, whether they be individuals or organizations or institutions.
You help them, you give them consults?
I think we help them in terms of there's education that we provide. So if there's new products and new business, we help be the conduit of information flow. So businesses that are listed in the market need to disclose information, their financial status, their performance, their prospects, so that investors can have an informed or make an informed decision in their investments, whether to buy or sell stocks, for example.
But when the market is not doing so well, like the price of the stock goes down and stuff like that, people might be like, Snap, do better, or คุณกว้าง do something about it. Is it fair for people to start asking for your help or start even pointing fingers at you?
Well, I'm 1 year into the job, or 1 year and about 3 weeks. So I'm counting the days now. When I first started the job, I thought it was unfair, to be honest. But I think part of the job description for us, now that I've realized, is we're like a complaint box as well. We're at the center of the capital market, so we need to listen to complaints. So it might be complaints about markets not performing well, which is essentially not our fault. We can't make people buy or sell stocks. But it's part of our job to listen and to convey that message to where it's necessary as well.
Okay.
So we for example, the press always covers the stock market quite extensively. And there's been instances where they might have discovered something of interest, of wrongdoing. And obviously we have to listen and inform the right authorities to take the action necessary for that.
I see.
So I think it's, in a sense, it's fair for them to come to us and talk about the market. It's part of the job to give information accordingly as well.
So maybe it's not, well, it's obviously it's not your fault for, the price of the stocks like go up and down or the market is doing great or not, but you can at least be listening ears for them.
Listening ear, and we also provide answers where necessary. It's part of communicating and educating.
Right.
So for example, if the economy is not doing well, obviously in the last year we've had a lot of issues, geopolitics, trade wars. As a center of the capital market, we need to absorb that information and explain to the market in certain instances how it's impacting the performance.
Right. Sometimes the frustration comes from like several sources, and maybe it's something that you might be able to help investors to like relieve.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think there's obviously mechanics to the market as well, that people come to us and provide inputs as to what they think should be changed, how do you increase liquidity and so on.
I see.
And some of them do. There's a lot of positive feedback that we receive, and we implement things in reaction to that as well.
All right. Okay. I want to know more about you. So maybe we can go back to the start, because I want to know where you're coming from, and I want to know about you personally too. So maybe an audience can learn a thing or two about you. And I would like to learn too. Okay. Can we talk about, we want to learn about you through words, right? Okay, so give us one word that you probably say all the time. Do you have any catchphrase?
Catchphrase?
Yeah. With or without you knowing that about yourself, probably you don't know, but other people kind of tell you.
I need to ask my team, I think. But I think at least with this job, one of the things that I've been using, the word that I've been using more is collaborate.
Collaborate.
Okay.
Working together.
And I think you could use the word teamwork, but I seem to like the word collaborate more than teamwork. Teamwork seems to be a small group, but collaborate it's bringing so many parts beyond just within our organization to help each other make things better.
I like that word too. Okay. Can you give us one word that best sums up your experience as a Thai fourth grader? Suddenly having to move and study in England.
Posse. Yes.
Posse.
Okay, yes.
Because you moved there in grade 4.
The word that comes to mind probably initially on the first day is probably homesick.
Homesick, of course, yeah.
and
But you moved there with your family, right?
no,
Just you yourself?
it was basically. I remember the day. Yeah, I remember because my parents took me to the UK, to London. First, we went to the toy shops.
Okay.
There's a big famous toy shop in London, and I thought it was a holiday. and then a few days later, we were buying a uniform, and that's something strange going on. I think I knew we were going to school, but
So they hadn't told you about.
They did.
Okay.
But you sort of don't realize it until the day when they took you to the school,
Yeah.
and then they left.
And they started with a toy store. That's a
little
good
bit,
strategy
yes.
there for parents.
It was a bit of holiday
Let's
first.
get you some toys first. And then now you have to stay here and study.
Yes.
Okay.
But there was two of us, so it was myself and a friend, another
I see.
Thai friend. So it wasn't absolutely lonely, but it was a bit of a shock, to be honest.
Yeah. Of course, because everything's changed, right? Your environment, the food, the weather,
And the weather.
and everything. Like the TV shows and stuff, right?
Well, you don't even have TV those
Oh,
days.
in the dorm?
No, there's no TV.
No.
There's no telephone.
Okay.
So we didn't.
Because we're talking about like back then, there's no
Yeah, so I'm
smartphone,
that old.
right?
There's no smartphone, of course, and it was still those sort of phone.
Yeah.
And we weren't allowed to use phones
Right.
at the school. So basically, we only spoke to our parents almost a month. Once a month when we go on the weekend to stay with our guardian,
Okay.
with a family that we stayed with nearby.
And you had to adapt fast, I guess.
Absolutely. So
Right.
we were sleeping in dormitories. So the young children, the smaller children, sleep in dormitories of 6, 7, 8 people, shared bathrooms and stuff, showers, and
Right.
So it was a big culture shock.
Right. Totally different from what you were used to, of
Absolutely,
course.
yes.
Yeah. But did you find your place and find your way pretty much soon after, or how long did it take you to?
I'm trying to remember,
Blend
but
in.
it wasn't very long because these schools, the boarding schools that they have, the program, the activities, they load activities into your day. So you start off waking up, washing, having breakfast in big halls, and then lessons, and then sports in the afternoon, then a few more lessons, and then dinner, and then
I have the image of Hogwarts and Harry Potter in my head right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my second school looked a bit like Hogwarts.
Yeah.
But basically you're packed. And sports was fun, and eventually you make friends, and because the only connection with home is you write a letter each week. You're forced to write a letter with stamps
really?
and send home every week.
Yeah.
And you get letters back
Yeah.
now and again.
Right.
So that was the only contact with the outside world.
Yeah. And I hear that sport is a big part of students' life in the UK too.
Absolutely. So
Right.
you have they form teams and you compete with other schools, and it was good fun. Ultimately, it was a lot of fun.
Any other culture shocks in your UK life?
I guess another memory. I remember because the UK gets quite cold, and they didn't have heated swimming pools then.
Oh.
And I remember being forced to, they call it break the ice. It was the beginning of the summer, but I think it was still cold enough to have a thin layer of ice on the swimming pool.
So you're literally breaking
you
the
have
ice.
you get picked to break the ice, to be the first to jump into the pool.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that was a bit of shock as well.
Right.
Compared to the weather in Thailand, I guess.
Yeah. So you were studying engineering, and of course, your first job being an engineer too. So do you still remember at least like one thing that you say to yourself, like every day as a young engineer at your first job? I want to know, like, what kind of life as an engineer did you have on your first year?
I'm just trying to think. Every day, I'm not sure if I said anything to myself every day. Maybe I was thinking of when I can play golf every day.
Okay.
But I lived in Rayong. So I was sent off to Rayong by bto, PTT back then. It was still a state enterprise.
Okay.
And so I lived in Rayong to help build the gas separation plant project there.
Was it a good year? Your first year as an engineer?
It was good fun. It was learning experience. Met a lot of people. met a lot of fellow engineers, I guess, very, very capable. Didn't realize Thailand had so much development until then. So it was a good learning experience. It gave me opportunities to go abroad as well as part of quite a large project. So I went to the US to test some machinery for the project. I went to Japan for some design work as well.
Was it your first year back also to Thailand?
Yes.
Okay.
It was basically, I remember I got the job quite strangely because my father had sent me to meet the CEO of bto, of PTT back then, more to get guidance on what I should do. And it was Kun Leon Krishnakri, who was then, I guess, called the governor, the Puwa of PTT then. And he actually suggested that I go work for ESSO.
What?
Yes.
He did say that?
He said that. He
Why? Did you ask why? Of course you did, right?
And he said because ESSO was such a famous worldwide organization, and he felt that ESSO had so much development, corporate culture, ways of management that I could learn a lot from back then. And I guess ESSO was the leading oil and gas company of the world back then.
Right. And did you?
I told him, funnily, I can't remember why I told him, but I said, I've been away for so long in the UK for 13, 14 years. I wanted to come back and do something for the country. And he said, come work for us next week. So that's how it started.
Cool. And then, of course, your life took another turn. You went to the US this time for another degree, but it's not in engineering this time around.
It was MBA.
What's MBA? Why? What went through your mind and what made you decide to get another degree but in MBA?
It was partly my parents, I guess, but partly because I remember during my work as an engineer, the accounting department kept asking for information, a lot of details, and said, why are they asking for all this information? What was it for? And it turns out later that it was for calculation of depreciation and amortization. So it's part of the accounting world. And I needed to learn another part of the business side, which is finance and accounting, to complete sort of my knowledge a little bit. So I think it was just a natural step to enlarge my knowledge in the financial world and management world.
Okay. And what would be one thing about the US that you like that the UK didn't have?
I think I was on golf courses, but I think the biggest difference that I saw in the education system was participation in the classroom.
Really?
I think in the UK, at least for the engineering world, it was we were left to our own accord quite a bit. We had to study. In the UK, you only take one exam a year. So you study the whole year. Or you don't study the whole year, but you have to cram in the last month or two to be able to take the exams.
Right.
But in the US, it was a continuous learning and testing and collecting credits, right?
Right.
So it's a credit system which was very different from the UK. And I remember that in the classrooms, we had to collect points by answering or by speaking up.
Participation.
Participation. That was a shock.
And did you like doing that?
No. It was very uncomfortable. At least for me anyway. Back then.
But I guess US students would be like shooting their hand up in the air all the time.
Yeah,
right?
they were competing to get the best scores.
Right.
I had one friend who, I remember, she got her test results from one class, and she started crying
Because
she got a B plus instead of an A.
Okay.
And she said she's never received anything below an A before in her life.
Okay. Oh, poor girl.
Poor girl, right?
Girl,
so
right?
It was quite. Some people were quite competitive in the US compared to the UK.
Right.
UK was more chilled. More,
Okay. So are you still a chill guy back then, or you learned to become more competitive?
When necessary.
When necessary. Interesting.
I think so. I can be competitive, but not all the time.
Okay. So how are you with changes? Do you love changes?
I can be a human of habit. when for certain things. So I like my coffee with a little bit of sugar in the mornings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Stick to what you like.
There's certain things. There's routines. People have routines, I guess. So with age, I think I've come to enjoy a bit of routine here and there. But I do enjoy trying to implement change if it's change for the better too, right? If you truly believe that you're doing something to make things better, it can be a satisfying challenge.
Like the way you change from engineering to finance because you're not just doing the MBA, but you decided at one point to switch field altogether to finance, right?
Correct.
Yeah. What would be the main reason for, like, when we switch jobs, right? We move from one field to another. Maybe we're bored with the old one, or maybe we kind of, well, this is my new true calling. So, which one is it for you?
I dare give probably not the right answer
Okay.
for the younger generation.
I'm curious now.
But hopefully an honest answer is at the time, it was the paycheck.
I see. But
My God,
yeah, very legit.
The
answer.
banks those days, international banks those days, paid a ridiculous amount of money
Right. Yeah.
for someone so young. It was so part of it was money, but part of it was as part of the MBA process. I think going back, it wasn't a massive jump for me because part of the MBA process you typically do a summer internship. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do a summer intern with an international bank in Hong Kong with JP Morgan. And so that sort of gave me a chance to dabble a little bit into finance, to learn about it. And I felt
you loved it.
And I enjoyed it.
Right.
Okay, I enjoyed back then being so young, flying business class, staying in 5-star hotels and stuff like that.
Who wouldn't?
But it was the job was enjoyable too. The process of advising, of calculating, of doing transactions was enjoyable too. So I think I sort of discovered something that I felt that I did enjoy versus an engineering work in a state-owned enterprise. So it was a big contrast.
Right. You worked in both Thai and international corporates before. So what would you say is the biggest difference between those two?
I think there's one Thai word that doesn't have an English word.
Okay.
เกรงใจ
That word, huh?
That word.
The classic one.
It doesn't exist in English.
Okay.
And in a lot of instances, that's the big difference.
And is it a good thing or a bad thing?
At least in the international corporations that I've worked with, there's no time to talk nice. You just have to
Okay.
be straight to the point.
Right.
There's no เกรงใจ
Okay.
So you just
Like you have to be direct, be straight.
and you got to accept directness as well. It's vice versa, right? So you get bosses who don't really care about your feelings. He cares about the delivery of the job, of the performance, and sometimes it's delivered in a harsh way. At least in bigger organizations, not just Thai organization, but bigger corporates.
Right.
You probably feel distressed, maybe a little bit, or uncomfortable. But in the international banks that I worked with, where the work layers is actually very thin, you're not far away from the top management of the organization. And in those thinly layered organizations, it's very quite harsh and direct.
Right. You have to brace for impact.
You have to brace for impact, but you got to push back too. That's one thing to survive, I guess.
Okay.
And I in the past, I do see that many Thais go into that sort of situation and they don't feel comfortable. It's difficult to feel comfortable. And I think that's where my time spent internationally in schools and universities has helped. Made me...
It has prepared you for
a little bit,
the
yes.
environment.
Yes.
Okay. All right. can we talk about what you do outside of your job, outside of work, like the hobby? Give us some hobby that you you do and enjoy.
No, I have a lot of hobbies.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
do
sports.
like sports.
You
I do
do
like
sports, of course. You mentioned golfing, right?
A little bit of golfing these
Okay.
days. But I like motorcycling.
Wow.
I like-
What kind? Like motocross?
Well, road bikes too. I started off with road bikes first.
Wow,
right?
okay,
But
okay.
then more recently, I've done some off-road enduro. So not motocross. I don't do the big
Like,
jumps.
like that. Okay.
Yeah, don't tell
Alright.
my team that.
Okay.
Too much risk. But no, I enjoyed a bit of off-road biking. Enjoyed-
Sounds a bit extreme, like extreme sport.
a little bit. I like
Okay.
rock climbing as well, for example.
Wow. Okay.
I've done some kite surfing as well. And
Wow. So adrenaline junkie, is that the word to describe you?
in one, you could say that adrenaline, it is quite exciting.
Yeah.
But I don't know, people think it's risky. But if you're careful, it's not. You can be careful with these sports.
Okay.
Still get their adrenaline, but it's safe.
Okay. So what does that say about you and your leadership style? Does it transfer into how you operate at work too?
I guess you could say that. In all these sports, I'm quite careful. For example, the kite surfing or rock climbing, I could probably be a lot better, quicker if I take more risks,
Okay.
for example. But kite surfing, for example, I did kite surfing during COVID. So it was work from home.
Wow, okay.
Work from home in Hue Hin. But normally the course that they give you is like, I remember 8 hours. I believe at most you could probably take 2 courses and be able to kite surf. It took me about 4 courses, more than double the
All right.
usual.
Okay.
Because I was taking baby steps. I wasn't taking a lot of risk.
Yeah.
I was driven to be able to do it. But I was careful
You go at your own pace.
at my own pace. And so I guess that sort of could reflect my style of
Yeah.
working as well. I'm more sort of deliberate. It takes me some time to think through what decisions to make. I don't jump into with just gut feeling.
Right. And I think that would be a good advice too for someone who wants to take more risk, so they don't have to like go crazy and do like 10 things tomorrow.
Yes.
But they can just take baby steps and be careful about your riskier journey, right?
But I do get comments. On the flip side, I do get comments, and I need to be a bit more bold
Really?
and a bit more decisive.
Do you agree?
sometimes. Yes, I would agree with that. There are
Okay.
certain steps to a certain stage. Enough thinking, I just get it done, decide,
Yeah.
and lead the way,
Right.
sort of thing.
What would be one thing that you wish you had done in your 20s that young people today should consider doing too?
Look, for me in particular, I wish I'd started rock climbing and motorcycling back in my 20s.
Really? Okay. So you had started it. When? When was
I
it?
started when I was almost 30.
Wow,
After I was
okay.
30.
All right.
Motorcycling's a bit more difficult because you need to be able to afford it first, right? For the big
Okay.
bikes and so on.
Right, right. What started it in the first place? The rock climbing thing and the motorcycle thing.
The rock climbing just started when I took a holiday down to Krabi in Railay,
Oh, okay.
and I saw some people climbing.
Yeah, they're known for rock
I-
climbing.
And so I went out and hired a guide to try.
Okay. And the first time you tried,
I fell in love with it.
you're hooked immediately,
I hooked.
huh? Okay.
And
What
then-
was it about rock climbing that you love it?
Part of it's the physical. It was just enjoyable physically. It's almost like it's weightlifting, but it's fun, right?
Ah, yeah.
It's,
In a way,
it's the
right.
full, you use the full body.
Sure.
So you became a lot stronger from climbing. It helped my golf game and helped and my squash game, everything. And then when you get to a certain level after practicing, they have what is called lead climbing.
Okay.
That's when you take the rope up yourself. When normally if you go to a climbing area, a guide will help take the rope up and put it through the anchor at the top, and then you climb with the rope, having gone through, and you don't fall very far if you let go. But with lead climbing, you take the rope up yourself and you hook it along the way. But hooks are quite far apart, right? So once you've hooked into one point and you climb to the next step, if you don't get to that hook to hook the rope on, the fall will be double. Like that. So it's a bit scarier.
Right.
But you're still safe, but it's just scarier. The fall's a bit longer if you let go. And each climb has its own grade. And the grading in natural rock, anyway, is graded on the hardest part of that climb. So you have different levels, 6A, 6B, 6C, and so on. And you normally know what your limit is, what grade. And if you lead climb at your limit, you get to that point where you know it's the hardest part of the climb of the route.
Yeah.
You have to be really 100% committed. And if you get through it, it's like a big adrenaline rush of achieving something. But if you're even slightly hesitant, you doubt yourself, you're likely to fall as well.
Wow.
I'm not sure what you call it. Is it a mind game, or is it a satisfaction, or it's
Right.
just...
Yeah. That would definitely fix my indecisiveness. You have to be very commit, and you have to be very
And like a lot of things, actually, it's even golf. A lot of it's in the mind. If that day you feel that you're going to hit the ball well, it's going to go straight, you normally do.
Yeah, great exercise for the mind.
But if you doubt yourself a little bit, it always goes wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Interesting. All right. Let's come back to set. We want to talk more about what to do. And for this part of the show, we want you to give scores to each word. So let's start with the obvious one, right? Set. What was your first memory of Thai stock market? And then first of all, what score do you want to give set? On the scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10?
Yeah.
I got to give 10 these days, yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So your first memory and your first impression of the Thai stock market, how far back are we going?
It was back in, must have been early 2000. It was basically the IPO, the initial public offering of PTT.
Oh, okay.
And I was an employee of PTT back
I
then.
see.
So I was given
The stock option?
stock options. And I think it initially lost money. No, actually, at least for the employees, we basically got a special price, employee price. So it was a good bonus. And eventually made a lot of money as well.
Okay.
So that's good memory.
Good memory.
Yes.
Good first impression too. Okay. So before you apply for this job that you have right now as president, what kind of research or preparation did you do?
Actually, I only had 2 weeks from when I decided
A very
to apply
short time.
to submitting the application. So I spoke to a lot of people who know about the market, who have experience with the market. And spoke to a lot of people who's not related to the market, but more people I look up to as managers of organizations and thinkers. So that was part of the research, just to get recognizing that I would be having to lead an organization, which I effectively hadn't done so before.
Okay.
And then a lot of research within the SET website too. So much information there.
Okay.
And the news. The Standard.
Okay.
To learn about
Good
markets.
source.
It's a good source.
Hopefully, yeah.
So overall, it was a lot of intense research, because we were required to submit our sort of vision, our strategy, of what we want to achieve with the SCT, with the capital market.
How sure were you at the time of applying that you will get the job?
Not that sure.
No?
Not that
Really?
sure.
Okay.
Well, look, I think you got to be confident with yourself. I did what I believe was the best ideas from the market and presented a lot of practice too. Because before this job, or even before, it was quite an intense interview with the board members as well, who are a lot more experienced than I am. So it was interesting.
Do you still remember any like hardest question that they threw at you?
Yes. Actually, the one feedback that I had later on after I got the job was there was one director who asked me, I think at the time, there were a lot of IPOs that either were priced too low or priced too high. So when they start trading, it comes down and people lose money. Or they start trading, it goes far too high. And he asked me, as president of the SET, how would you fix that?
Wow.
And I thought about it and I said, I don't know. I told them directly, well, I don't know. I know the process of pricing an IPO because I've done as a financial advisor. And that process is a price discovery process in itself. But ultimately, the SET doesn't have a function or the authority to determine pricing. So I told him I don't know the answer to your question. And it turns out afterwards that he liked the fact that I said that I didn't know. I didn't try to BS. I can't say it on TV, I guess, but I didn't try to sort of BS my way into an answer.
Okay.
And that impressed the director.
Wow. Were you nervous at the time with saying I don't know out loud in that room?
Actually, in hindsight, I wasn't. It's better to be honest and sincere, in my view. And since then, I think there's been events within the SET where people have come back and given me feedback for thank you for being honest and sincere, rather than trying to sugarcoat news and messages.
Wow, that's nice. I like that answer too.
So I think sometimes in these days, and I've been leading. So I've started since this job. I started reading a lot of leadership books and stuff.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I think vulnerability can be an asset too for leaders.
Yeah, because other people, like some people might think that being clever with your words and trying to like be smart with like try to like save your butt might be a better option. But in this case, I agree with you. I would appreciate your honesty too.
I think so. I think in this day and age, people appreciate honesty a lot more.
Yeah. So now, honestly, tell me then that what is the charisma of the Thai stock market?
Look, the Thai stock market's been this year is the 50th anniversary of the Stock Exchange of Thailand. And it has scale. It has a lot of businesses that have grown together with the market. It still has a lot of businesses that are attractive for investing. We're a relatively matured market in terms of technology, in terms of stability, in terms of security. So I believe part of the charisma of the Thai market at the moment is it can be seen as a relatively safe haven for investing. It's a safe place to invest, but safe in the sense that not safe as you're going to make money all the time.
Right.
But it's safe in that we have good businesses listed on our stock exchange. If you take the time to study and look there are opportunities within the market. There's businesses with high dividends that can give you a constant return, annual return. That is better than leaving money in the bank, for example. Right. So there's charisma, but with our current economy, the way the growth that our economy has, if you expect the market to be shooting up multiple times in the near future, it's going to be quite difficult unless we can help the economy grow at a faster pace.
So how friendly and accessible is that for new gen investors, you think?
In this day and age, it's extremely accessible. Part of our function as a stock exchange is to enable accessibility, inclusiveness. So we've invested and developed applications that securities companies can use to allow onboarding of customers, new investors, more efficiently, in a more costly manner. Because ultimately, we want to develop new investors too, but we recognize that the younger generations who've just started off in their working career, they're not going to have a lot of bullets,
Right.
not even missiles to invest, right? But it's a good idea to start saving and learn about investments early. So part of our job is to enable the intermediaries that we have, basically the brokerage firms, to efficiently and be encouraged, incentivized to educate and bring on the younger generation of investors too.
Okay. So what new things we'll get to see from SET under your leadership that maybe we haven't seen before in the past, like whether it in terms of strategy or approaches or technology?
Well, one thing in this day, AI is a big thing. So AI is something that we're looking to use for the benefit of the capital markets more. Currently being used to help us regulate and do surveillance work on activities in the market, digesting information more quickly so that we can inform investors of situations, whether good or bad, in a speedier manner. Using AI to connect with investors better. So, for example, and going back to when I was doing research for my application for the job, it took a lot of work going to the website, trying to find the right link to get the right information. Why can't I just ask a simple question in human language?
Yeah.
And it gives me an answer that I want.
It could be done in 5 minutes, right?
And
These
with
days.
AI, that's possible. So we're looking into how that can help inform investors better, easier, and to the things that you want to learn about too. Enlarging the product, because as I mentioned at the start, one of our core functions is to create financial opportunities, investment opportunities. So it's about products. If there's less companies being listed, what products are people investing in? What products do you want to put your money to work with? Could it be the bond market? Should bonds, fixed income products be available on the stock exchange for investors to easily access? Crypto.
Yeah.
Now this is stretching it a bit, but look, we want to create opportunities for people to invest in or to manage their financial diversification, investments, strategies according to their lifestyle or what they want. And it's going to differ, right? Younger people maybe can take a bit more risk, but the older generations, and we are getting to a, what do you call it, aging society.
Yeah.
Maybe want more stable products. And our job is to make that available as a choice for them.
Okay. All right. Second word. SP 500.
Couple.
Right. So basically, it's the index of 500 leading U.S. companies by market cap. Right. So we're talking investing overseas now. So this is pretty hard because we've seen on social media people talk about investing their money, managing their money, and they're talking about investing not just in the country but outside the country too. So do you think this would pull away like new investors or Thai investors from Thai stock market? What do you think about investing outside of country?
Look, one of the things that the stock market, and this started before me, from the prior president and management, is the product we now call DRs, depository receipts. So in recognition that Thai investors do want opportunities to be exposed to US companies, Japanese companies, European companies that may be performing well. How do we make that easy for them, for Thai investors to access or to have the opportunity to invest in those companies? And so depository receipts, so DRs, was created. So in this today, you could open up a brokerage account and buy shares in NVIDIA, in Google, in Louis Vuitton, LVMH, using Thai baht in Thailand. So we're not here to stop people making their investment choices, but we're here to create the opportunities to make it easy for them to access. And especially people, because to invest offshore, you need to be quite wealthy, right? To transfer money, to have accounts offshore and stuff like that. But today you can actually buy these stocks, these shares, these businesses with quite small sums of money easily on the Thai stock exchange. So that's so we're not against money investing in international companies, but we're pro financial opportunities.
Right. So now that's available and to be able to do, like people can invest anywhere now. What do you think is the right balance, or how can a Thai investor find the right balance between investing locally and internationally?
I think it comes down what we try to advise investors, especially individual investors, always is information. Make investments on an informed basis rather than just by gut feel or by hype or by trend, right? Ideally, but not everyone has the time to constantly look at the price changes. If you're working in a company as an employee, but you're constantly watching the share price changes to trade, I don't think you're going to be working there for long, right? I would encourage informed investments.
Okay, right.
Read the news, look at the statistics, look at the data, look at the financial information in the companies, and sometimes even look at the management and board of directors of the companies that you want to invest in.
Yeah, do your homework.
Do your homework.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? This is pretty classic to fear and greed. Best capture the sentiment of the stock market. Actually, Warren Buffett said this like a long time ago in 1986 in his annual letter. He said, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So fear and greed, they always exist in the stock market. So how should a new investor navigate fear and greed as they start out?
Well, I think both are necessary.
So do you like these words?
Maybe I would use different words.
Okay.
Possibly. Maybe fear I would relate to risk. Right?
Right.
But ultimately, investments can be risky. So going back to being an informed investor, it reduces your risk. By being informed, it reduces your fear effectively, right? And it allows you to be more greedy.
Yeah.
And also, I think one of my old bosses gave advice to be long-term greedy.
Long-term greedy. Interesting.
Versus short-term greedy. So for normal investors, I would recommend to try and be long-term greedy. So look to the future. Look for a long time. Don't invest like for minutes or for days, but look for months and years.
Yeah. It sounds like something you need to plan, right?
Well, part of the study, because the upside is if you believe that this business or this company can grow, has the right strategy, has the right management, has the right advantages, that has potential to grow in the future. It's not going to happen overnight,
Right.
right? For example, the Standard didn't become so successful overnight with millions of followers.
That is
but
true.
it takes time. But if you believe in the people that you see running the business, the concepts that are being produced, then make the investment. But don't expect it to go 100% in one day or 2 days. But in the long term, it's going to be much more stable.
Yeah. Sounds like VI way, huh?
VI way.
Yeah.
Generally, I think, well, I would categorize participants in the market today as either traders or investors. So VI is what I would call investors. But traders can also be successful.
Okay.
But traders requires a different skill set. Effectively, you need to be a full-time trader because you're in that case you're not looking at only the long-term prospects of an investment, but you're looking at the making quick turns and making little bits of money along the way by trading. So price goes up a little bit, just sell. Price comes down a bit, buy, and it's just the turnover can also be a strategy as well.
Yeah. So
but in that case, you got to focus a little bit more.
Sure. So these two negative words, not necessarily, could be very functioning and could be very useful when you want to be successful in investing too, but you just have to know how to manage it.
Yeah, and they're reminders rather than fearful words or they're scary words, but I think they can also be reminders.
Yeah.
Don't be too greedy.
True. Yeah.
Have some fear as well.
Yeah. you should, right?
Yeah.
If you like totally fearless, you'll be losing all your money.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So and of course on the flip side, if you don't have enough greed and too much fear, you would never start
get anywhere
investing. Right. So for any advice for those who have like not greedy enough and too fearful to start?
I think at least the way I've looked at myself, eventually I'm as an employee, full-time employee, I don't have time to look at stocks so in my case, if I had 100 baht, my idea is I'll have someone manage 80 baht for me.
Okay.
Some professional who has time to trade, to change, to have strategies. And then maybe for fun, for a bit more excitement, invest 20 baht myself.
Okay.
Pick stocks and see if I make the right choices.
Trial and error.
So don't bet your lunch money on something. And that's where the balancing between fear and greed comes into play, I believe.
Yeah. Good advice, right?
I hope so.
Okay, last one. You've mentioned crypto earlier, right? So do you see crypto as a threat or an opportunity for traditional stock market like SCT?
For SCT, I don't think I would use the word threat or opportunity. I see cryptocurrencies as an asset class that is gaining more popularity as an investment product. And there's a variety of cryptocurrencies, right? So I think sometimes using the word cryptocurrency is a bit too all-encompassing because there are, and just like stocks, there are bad cryptocurrencies. There are cryptocurrencies that people have lost a lot of money on. But then there's the more stable and more established assets that people do have big interest in. If investors are looking to seize it as an asset that they need in their portfolio, part of our job is to ensure that they have the opportunity to invest in what they want. It's demand and supply, right? I think we're in the middle. We're like a marketplace where there's demand. Should we look for supply to satisfy that demand or not?
Yeah.
Rather than, so it's not a threat as such, but is it an opportunity that we need to make available for participants in our market?
So if your daughter, you had a daughter, right? You have a daughter. So if she came to you and asked you for advice that she wanted to try investing in crypto, what would you say to her?
I would say have a dabble.
Yeah.
Dabble in it. But like I said,
Give it a try.
Give it a try.
Right.
But don't bet your lunch money on it. Right? If I give you 100 baht to live, or at least some amount, your monthly allowance.
Right. 80-20, like you said, right?
I think
maybe
less than 20.
Less than 20, just to be on the safe side.
You got to live first, and then
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a saying, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Similarly, right? You should try things.
Right.
With hobbies, with everything in life, you should try a little bit.
Yeah.
And discover yourself.
Yeah, just make sure it doesn't kill you.
It doesn't. Yeah. Don't go so far as it might kill you.
Yeah,
right?
you'll get stronger. Wow. Okay, so thank you for coming and chatting with me this afternoon on this rainy afternoon. We have learned a lot, and for those who are watching and still hesitate or still on the fence of like whether or not they should try investing, I think Kun Kwang said it best. You can just like put some money to the test and learn while investing. Right?
There's a lot of tools out there. And obviously go to the stock exchange website, SET website, or we've got applications that makes investing very easy these days.
Yeah, that's the thing. Investing is way easier these days.
You're correct.
And anybody can
And
invest.
We have a lot of materials that we've created to educate, to help you enter into the investment world on a better footing to start with.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, don't dive in.
Yeah.
Try a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And learn. It's a learning process, to be honest.
Right.
And it's not something that it's not the lottery. It's not. It should be a learning process that you know what you're investing.
And if you don't know where to start, I think SET website is the best place to start. Just go and use tools that they provide you with, and just start investing today, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
please.
All right. Okay. Kun Kwang ครับ can you give us one word which is your favorite word คำนี้ดีของคุณกวางอัสเดชคือคำว่าอะไรครับ
I was thinking about this word because your program is Kamnidi.
Yeah.
The word smile.
Smile.
Yim.
Really? Wow.
There was a piece of writing that I saw years back that I've written down about the value of a smile. I've written it down.
Okay, please.
May I?
Yeah, sure.
Which is, I don't know who wrote this. I can't find the source, but it says the value of a smile. It costs nothing but creates much. It enriches those who receive without impoverishing those who give. So you don't get poorer by giving it, right? It happens in a flash, and the memory sometimes lasts forever. It says none are so rich they can get along without it. So no one can live without a smile. Yeah. And none are so poor, but are richer for its benefits.
Wow.
Right? It creates happiness in the home. It fosters goodwill in business. And it's the countersign of friendship. It is rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and nature's best antidote to trouble. And this is important here. Yet it cannot be bought. It cannot be begged, borrowed, or stolen. For it is something that is no earthly good to anybody, not worth it to anybody, till it's given away. right? So nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give. And it gives meaning to the word smile.
I love it so much.
In a sense that it's attached to me.
Right.
And even in this job, what is the book? 7 Habits, right? Of effective people, some highly effective people. And it sort of says circle of concern and circle of control. So you should focus on things that you can make a difference on. And for the circle of concerns, the best weapon against it, I guess, is just a smile.
Yeah.
So all these troubles that you can't be on your control, just smile at it.
Right.
And it makes life easier.
Right. คุณกวางครับ I appreciate your time and your smile this afternoon. Thank you so much ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณมากครับ